Now, after weeks of intense electoral battle, Australia's opposition leader Anthony Albanese has now claimed victory in the country's national elections. This came after the outgoing Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison seemed to run out of miracles in his life and conceded defeat. The Labour Party will now return to power after being in opposition for almost about a decade. Scott Morrison's defeat comes after the pandemic hit Australia, witnessed an inflation rate of almost about 5.1%. Now, Albanese, who is the leader of the Australian Labour Party, is slated to become the country's 31st Prime Minister, and he has served as a Member of the Parliament in Australia since 1996. He was the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia back in 2013 and has also served as a Cabinet Minister between 2007 till 2013. Now, during his victory speech, the Australian Prime Minister-elect Albanese pledged to bring Australians together, saying that he would lead a government that is worthy of the people of Australia. He's also vowed to make Australia a renewable energy superpower and effectively fight the climate crisis.
I want to seek our common purpose and promote unity and optimism, not fear and division. It is what I have sought to do throughout my political life and what I will bring to the leadership of our country. It is a show of strength to collaborate and work with people, not weakness. I want to find that common ground where together we can plant our dreams. To unite around our shared love of this country, our shared faith in Australia's future, our shared values of fairness and opportunity, and hard work and kindness to those in need.
It was a pretty quick decision on Morrison's part to step down as the Prime Minister despite millions of votes that are yet to be counted, because the country needs an immediate leader to represent Canberra at Tokyo's summit on Tuesday. Scott Morrison, meanwhile, has also decided to step down as the leader of his own Liberal Party, and this means that the party will need a separate election to elect its next chief.
I, as leader, take responsibility for the wins and the losses. That is the burden and that is the responsibility of leadership. And as a result, I will be handing over the leadership at the next party room meeting to ensure that the party can be taken forward under new leadership, which is the appropriate thing to do.
Meanwhile, there is no clarity on the formation of government yet. It will be interesting to see whether the Labour Party will, of course, choose a coalition government or will wait to cross the majority mark on its own. With about 67% of the votes having been counted so far, the Labour Party has grabbed 72 seats, while Morrison's coalition has got a little more than 50 seats. But to get an absolute majority in the House, he needs to get about 76 seats on his own. It'll be interesting to see whether the new Prime Minister-elect is able to get over the majority mark on his own or needs allies to form the government. Meanwhile, Independents and the Greens have managed to get about 15 seats. The House of Representatives has 151 seats, so the magic number is 76. Scott Morrison, meanwhile, has extended his best wishes to his successor for the upcoming term, and also the Indian Prime Minister took to Twitter to congratulate the Australian Prime Minister-elect, saying that India looks forward to work together in further strengthening the strategic partnership between both the nations. All right, so there is change of guard that has happened at Australia, and to give us more insights in terms of what this would, of course, mean for Australian politics, we're joined in by Mr. Kathira Pettigora, who's joining us live from Melbourne. Now, Mr. Pettigora, this, of course, is a very crucial election for the people in Australia just after the, effect of the pandemic and the lockdown. Scott Morrison, a Prime Minister who said that he believes in miracles, because last time round he was expected to lose, but he managed to win that. And this time round he's run out of miracles and has lost an election.
Yes, so I think that it's been quite a historic win, given that Labor's been in opposition for almost a decade and has not won an election in over a decade. They were meant to win last time with a very strong, somewhat radical economic policy, but they didn't, and now they have. But I think one of the biggest stories out of this election is the rise of the independents. And I think that's something that the Labor Party will note and will take into consideration, because I think what that reflects is a growing distance between ordinary voters and where they feel the major parties are. And I think that's part of why Scott Morrison lost yesterday.
Interesting. Now, the Labour has come back to power in Australia almost about after a decade. What do you think is likely to change in Australian politics? Scott Morrison, as the leader in Australia, was in fact criticised for being absent during the moment of Australia's crisis. This happened during the bushfires, where he was on a holiday in Hawaii. He went back to those people, to the communities who were suffering from bushfires, and they heckled him. They asked him the question, where was he when the fires were burning their homes? Do you think the leadership style in Australia will now change under the new Prime Minister-elect?
Definitely. I think with Scott Morrison, there was sort of insult adding to injury, where he was known to have promoted the coal industry as well, and then being absent during the bushfires, which were linked to climate change, was something that Australians were very angry about. I think climate change has been a key dividing line between the parties, even though Labor has been somewhat hamstrung in how much it can do, because it also has to try and balance its working class votes with its more inner city votes. But I think there is a change there will be a change in the tone of Australian politics. And I think that since John Howard in the 1990s, there's been this very rough and aggressive type of politics where anything seems to be fair game. But I think voters have rejected that now. And I think what they brought in with Albanese, who mentioned kindness in his speech, is someone they think is a more decent and honest person.
All right, Ms. Petiola, thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.